Chapter 10. Over the next few days, I focused a lot on training and just getting better. I'd been doing more through these weeks. Seraphin finally was letting me use my sword, and I was starting to get good at the blocks and the parries and some of the thrusts. Nothing fancy by any means, but I was starting to learn. I was also definitely getting a handle on meditation, like Syl had taught me. And even just since the last time I'd seen Darren about a week ago, I was feeling a lot better about traveling skills. I was able to tell where portals were, and now I knew how to look into them and get a sense for the world around to make sure that they were safe. And I started to kind of poke around at portals around the house. There were some in the house, some around the yard and around the neighborhood, and most I had no idea where they led to. They were just wilderness of some kind, some alien, some looked just like Earth, but not many that were like civilized, and none that I recognized from anything that I'd read or seen or all that. And in the neighborhood just down the street, there was one that I'd found and looked in and got nothing, just complete darkness. And I immediately stepped away. I knew what that was and did not want to have part in that. But through my searching, I had found one that led to a city, a populated place that I'd recognized as London. And not far from a street that, I don't remember the name now, but when I read the street name, I thought, I recognize that from something. And I'd gone home and looked it up and realized that the Leaky Cauldron was on that street. And I thought, no way. That's a place that I'm gonna check out. And so that Wednesday, I think it was, I strapped on my sword. I still wasn't very good at it, but I wanted to get used to having it, and the scabbard was great. And I had a little bit of experience. And I had my backpack, and I was ready to go. I went in through the portal, and was getting a lot better at overlaying the two worlds and popping through the other side of the portal. But I went in, slipped into the Leaky Cauldron, and sat down and at a table near the back, just kind of out of the way, because my goal was through the back of it, and I knew that I couldn't get there on my own, so I was waiting for someone to show up, and pulled out my phone and just kind of looked at it as I waited. I hadn't thought that phones would be common here, but I wasn't the only person with my face lit up by a screen. I guess they have a kind of magic to them too, huh? But it wasn't too long before somebody walked in, stood inconspicuously for a minute, and slipped out the back. And I gave it 5 seconds before I stood up and went in after him. And the courtyard was just beginning to close as I slipped through and came out on Diagon Alley. And it was absolutely incredible. The architecture was just so foreign, just so cramped and all up in your face, and there was magic going on and wizards and witches openly walking around. And I wasn't worried about my modern clothing because there were people wearing that there as well. But it was just incredible to be there. I thought, okay, this is an incredible place to get something to be better prepared to fight the Perphythians, or whatever it is we end up doing. But as I went along, I passed a bank and realized I didn't have galleons or sickles, and I didn't have British money either. I thought, oh shoot, I guess I'll just be window shopping for today, just looking around. Is that what that means? Anyway, I thought, it's still cool to look around, and I'll find some way to get money and come back later. I was walking along, just taking in the scents and the sounds and everything around me, when something made me stop. I frowned and took a step back and looked down an alleyway, and there's nothing there, but something had made me stop. And, I mean, there was nobody there, it wasn't a dark, just like this little slot between two buildings. And I felt like I was entirely sure there was something to it. And my curiosity got the better of me, and I began to walk through the alleyway and try to focus on what I had felt. And I closed my eyes, and my finger traced along the wall as I stepped back through this alley. And suddenly the brick that my finger was sliding against began to sink into the wall. And I stopped and opened my eyes, and the brick sank back, and the wall began to unfold, and it opened up a small compartment with a bag full of money sitting there. I thought, you're joking me. What? And I looked around. Nobody there. And just this bag of money. And I thought, is this for me? I mean, it can't be, right? But I felt like I was led to it, and I was very confused, and I started to reach for it and thought, this isn't my money. Though, if I'm going to stop the Profithians, I need things. And I finally satisfied myself. I said, all right, I'll take money, and so I'm going to get money later and bring it back, right? Pay back for whatever I took here. Because I was led to this, and I felt like the money was mine. Somehow, in some weird way. I can't explain it. But either way, I didn't take the whole bag, but I took a bunch of the money and stuck it in both of my pockets, and put some in my backpack as well, and closed the bag back up. And as I stepped away, the compartment closed back up. And I thought, magic. Oh my gosh. And I continued down the street, now looking a lot more energetically at what was there. And I passed a broom store and thought, oh, that would be good. I stepped inside, and there was this smell of wood and polish. And I thought, oh, this is so cool. And the person at the front welcomed me and asked if there was anything he could do to help. And I said, I'm looking for a broom, nothing pricey, but good quality that can take me a good distance. I travel a lot. And they said, well, that we can do. I can see that. Visiting from the New World. And for a second I thought that he was talking about Earth, and I started to freak out, and then I realized he meant America in my accent. I was like, oh, yeah, just on a trip and want a good souvenir, because I know there are quality things here. He said, well, that is great to hear, and you came to the right place. And he directed me to a broom, and I thought it looked pretty good. I said, great, how much is that going to cost? And he said, 200 sickles. I said, okay. I fished in my pockets as he was taking care of the broom. He held it over the counter and pulled out a thing of paper and wrapped it around the broom as it was still hanging in the air. It was super cool, super well done. And I put down a pile of coins. I said, sorry, I'm not super used to your money over here. I thought, they have different money in America and Britain, right? In this world? And he didn't think anything weird of it. And he counted them up, and so that'll be 20 more sickles. I reached into the other pocket and dumped some out, and he returned some back. And I felt kind of at his mercy, but he seemed nice enough, and I had money to spend anyway. So I was like, okay. So I took the broom and went out and found a quiet place on the alley where I could slip it into my scabbard. And I didn't want a broom head sticking out of my hip. And so I set the broom above a bench because it floated, and pulled out the elvish sword and set it on the bench, and looked at the scabbard and realized that there was extra leather that was like cinched off and hidden inside the loop itself. So I reached in and pulled it out and uncinched it, and the thing was a lot bigger than I realized. Like, I could fit in there. But I stuck the two things in there and cinched it back up and tucked it away and thought, that is really nice. Now I had the little bit of broom handle and the sword handle sticking out. From there I thought, great, where to next? And looked up the street and down the street, and across the way and a few stores up, I saw a big sign that said Ollivanders. And I wasn't sure if I would be able to use a wand or not, but could you imagine? I said, all right, let's go for it. We'll see what we can do. And I stepped in, and it took me straight back to my childhood. Just to see the place, and he looked exactly the same. And everything just felt and smelled so old. It was so cool. There was this line of kids going to get their first wands. Some parents waiting with them, some were outside the store. And for a minute I thought, am I too old to get a wand? And I thought, no, because Ron broke his and got a new one. I can just say the same happened, or maybe I want a British one. I don't know. I'd just see what I could do. And I waited as he went through the next few customers. And he finished with the kid just ahead of me. The kid turned to leave, and Ollivander turned to the back of the store and went up on his ladder and took his time picking out a wand and came up to me and said, leave my store. I don't do business with your kind. I said, what? I never expected such, blunt coldness from Ollivanders. I wasn't sure if he meant muggle or traveler or what. I wasn't sure, but I said, what do you mean? And he said, leave my store. I don't do business for you. This wand is for the kid behind you. Leave. And I felt my face go red and turned to leave, and I closed my eyes and turned around and tackled Ollivander to the ground. Weren't expecting that, were you? I wasn't either. I knocked him to the ground just as the kid who had picked up the wand released a fireball from the end of the wand, and it soared right above where Ollivander's head had been. And it went through and blasted against the back wall. And Ollivander sputtered at first, but as the fireball hit the wall, he looked at the fireball, looked at me, looked back at the kid who dropped the wand in surprise, and looked back at me, and his face got this look of, who are you? And I wasn't going to stay around long enough to answer that question. I got up and raced out of this store. I didn't need a wand. Though it left me wondering what in the world had happened. I was confused, but continued along my way. I thought, I still got some money. What more could I get? And as I was looking, I saw a headline that talked about murderous wizards out with no one to stop them. Who knows who can stop you-know-who? Oh, what? I paid for one of the papers and looked through it, and nothing about a chosen one, nothing about Harry Potter, just you-know-who's ransacking the country. And I thought, weird, what time period is this? I'll have to ask Gar, see if she knows anything about what's going on. I tucked that into my backpack and figured, well, I still got some money, I'll get some potions or something, see what more I can get, and continued along my way. End of chapter 10.